What do we say during life's difficult moments? How do we comfort someone after a loss? Learn how to really be there for someone you care about and listen to their pain. Healing Conversations, a practical guide for communication during hard times. Next on Living Smart. Welcome to Living Smart, the show designed to help you get the most out of life. Nance Guilmartin is a 4-time Emmy-winning journalist, an educator, author, business advisor, and community advocate. She helped launch the nation's designated driver program and For Kids' Sake campaigns. She was the press secretary for the former U.S. Senator Paul Tsongas, a writer-producer for CBS News Radio, and a television editorial director. She's also the author of 2 books, The Power of Pause and Healing Conversations, What to Say When You Don't Know What to Say, which has been published in 12 languages. In today's relentless 24/7 world, we'll discuss this communications first aid kit for difficult and troubling times. Nance Guilmartin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patty. Great to be here.
Why did you decide to write this book?
Because there were too many times when people had the best of intentions and they unexpectedly would say the wrong thing. And people would say to me, "What is with this person? How could they even think that would be helpful to me?"
Right.
Or we didn't know what we needed. And so I went through a lot of difficult times myself, and suddenly I started telling people, gee, if only somebody had done this, and they said, why don't you write this down?
Right, very good. Okay, let's talk about the 10 principles of healing conversations. The first one you really like and is so important is listen.
Well, most people think listening is, well, I wasn't saying anything, I was listening. But of course your mind is rehearsing what you want to say, and you're having a reaction or an opinion, or it's not what you expected, and so you're in this whole mental mess. So listening is to listen for what you don't know.
Okay. Pause.
Pause does not mean stop. Let me repeat. Pause is not a stop sign. Pause can be taking a deep breath and then letting it out. It can be asking yourself, I wonder what they might need, rather than this is what I know someone needs. So
right.
Pause is a chance for you to step in someone else's shoes or put the clutch in, back off the gas, and shift to neutral for just a moment.
Okay. Be a friend, not a hero. What does that mean exactly?
Well, Patty, can you remember the last time when somebody needed help and you just couldn't wait to go rescue them or fix it?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Let me put you out of your misery, or I know just what you need.
Exactly.
But often we're not ready for rescuing. We didn't ask for it. We're not sure we can even accept all of your help. So go in easy and first listen for what they might need or what they may not yet be ready to accept. Be a friend, not a rescuer.
And the next one is offer comfort.
Comfort.
How do you do that?
We talk about comfort food, comfort clothes, comfort PJs. Comfort is not always what would comfort you. So I write in the book something that surprises spouses. How come he didn't know what I needed? How come she didn't know I needed space? Comfort is paying attention to what would make them feel comfortable, not what makes you feel comfortable.
It's a lot about really being conscious of who you are, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. The next one is be in touch with your own feelings again.
Well, here's one for you. When you unexpectedly hear that a friend has been diagnosed with something difficult or someone has died, you have your own feelings. If you rush to express condolences or sympathy or let me know what I can do for someone else, and you haven't processed your shock or your loss or maybe your anger or your bewilderment, what you're offering isn't really coming from the best of who you are.
Be there in the long haul. Why is that important?
I'm sure a number of your viewers have or will one day be a caregiver for someone, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, a sibling, a family member who's going through a difficult time. They may be dying, or they may be having a long recovery. They may be depressed. They may be upset over their breakup. They may have lost their job. They may be in financial difficulty. These things don't get fixed in the short time. If you say to someone, I can be there for you, be aware that might be a matter of months, weeks, or years of paying attention to how their needs for your comfort might change.
Interesting. Show up even when it's awkward. I can definitely relate to this because I recently lost a friend and I was afraid to show up at hospice, but I showed up anyway. It was awkward.
I'm glad you're mentioning the words show up, because a lot of what healing conversations are have nothing to do with words. Think for a moment, have you been around someone where you don't even know why, you just feel comfortable with them? They're not sitting there wondering what to say or do or fussing.
Right.
Maybe they just show up in your house and they make themselves at home and you can let out.
Relax.
Yeah. So show up when it's awkward can be, you don't have to know what to say, but let someone know, I just want to be here with you right now. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Sometimes
what happened.
People just need a touch. Or you to fix the flowers, but you don't have to talk about how things are.
Exactly.
So it's about presence.
Be a helpful resource. This is really important with the information age.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not the kind of person you really want to show up in the hospital around all the machines and all the nurses and the doctors and all of that, because I want to know, what can I do? What should I be doing? But I can be really great about, Nance, could you look up something for me about this? Or do you know somebody who might be able to help me with that? Many times helping isn't about speaking. It might not even about be rushing around doing. It can be about getting somebody else to be a resource for someone because maybe you're not the right one. That takes humility.
Right. Take the initiative.
Well, that's another one. One of the things we often will say when somebody looks like they need help is, oh, let me know what I can do. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe we're doing that because we really don't know what to do. But now we've just made it what? Your job to tell me how to feel better to make you feel better.
Right.
We don't mean to do that.
Right.
So take the initiative is pause before you offer help or before you ask someone to let you know what they need and think about, gosh, Patty, I don't know if this would help you, but if I had just had surgery and I was in a cast and I was on crutches, I might need someone to go to the grocery store for me. Is that something I could do for you? And if not, maybe there's something else you could think of. It's so much easier to say yes or no, not that, maybe this.
You're giving them examples of
I'm
things
giving
that you
them
could
an
possibly do.
on-ramp.
And, right.
Yes.
Instead of being vague, like, oh, I'll do anything for you.
Yes.
Okay, whatever that means.
Exactly.
Be compassionate.
Well, most of us think we are being compassionate when we try to let somebody know we're there to help them. But sometimes we're bringing our own stuff to the situation. Like we're judging, well, this isn't going to be hard for you. Or, oh, this is awful. Well, maybe that's not how they feel. So being compassionate is to learn how to be with them however they are.
In their space, not yours.
Yes.
Right. Why is it so hard for humans to listen? To really listen?
Well, think about it. Particularly today, we live in a go-go, just do it, get it done, move on world. So just the idea of sitting there doing nothing when we want to think we're helping makes us feel like we're useless. Listening is an art, and that's why so many of the stories in the book and in the courses I teach you that listening is about setting aside your agenda to get curious about what the other person might need or not need.
Okay, let's talk about something really important because we all have to go to work.
Yes.
And most of our lives we spend at work. So let's talk about tips for workplace conversations. So the first one you have here is get curious, not furious. And I saw that you brought George here.
Well,
right?
When was the last time that you got an
Get
email?
curious, not furious. This is very popular now.
Yes, it is.
And you created this, get curious, not furious.
One day I realized that people were angry. And it occurred to me that they thought, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right.
Or I know the answer and you don't. Or I don't have time for this, let's just do it. And I said, well, we need to get curious, not furious. And also laughter is a good way to laugh at ourselves. At, oh, maybe I did jump to a conclusion. Maybe I am making an assumption. Or maybe you don't have a clue of why I'm so upset. And meanwhile, I think you should. So whenever I go anywhere in the world, I'm willing to sort of make a little fun of myself because if we can laugh at, I am not curious, I'm not even remotely curious, and I'm about to.
I'm really angry.
Yes.
And I don't want to get curious.
And being angry affects our health.
Sure.
It's often hard to take back the words.
Right.
And so I bring Curious George with me no matter where I go, even into the hospitals, working with people in healthcare, talking with patients, talking with people in the workplace, anywhere, to remember it's okay to be mad because you're upset about something. It's okay to be furious, but not to act from it. You want to at least pause, dial it back a bit and say, you know what, I need to talk to you about this, but maybe I need to take a moment.
Right.
Or I'm realizing I'm not even remotely curious about what's going on for you, and I need to stop and ask you, help me understand, why did you do that? Maybe I wasn't clear.
Right.
So there's a whole lot more to it.
It's really getting more information than before you're reacting to a situation.
Well, actually, it's also why I wrote the other book about pausing, because people said, could you help us have some ways to know how to pause and listen, especially when we don't think we need to?
Right. And the next one is listen. Again, very important, but we don't know how to do it very well, do we?
We don't. And a lot of people are willing to learn more about listening. Can be, let me see if I understand what I think I thought you said. It's not, you said we're going now. It seems like we need to finish very quickly. Well, yes, I didn't tell you we're running out of time. Oh, thank you. Now I know why you're interrupting me. We need to move on.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to learn how to listen, not for being right, but for learning more.
Right. Be honest. Another one.
Well, a lot of us think we're being honest at work about, what do you think of this idea? Do you think we should have this meeting? Did I do a good job? And honesty is not just telling somebody what you think they want to hear or what you think. It really is taking your time to find out what's going on for you. And how can you speak in a way that someone else can hear it?
Right, right.
So be true to yourself so that you can tell them what you think is going on. Don't just tell people what they want to hear.
Now, you lecture all over the country, and you also travel around the world. Tell me about, when you talk to your audiences, you give them a challenge and an invitation at the same time.
Well, when I first wrote Healing Conversations, it was just before 9/11.
Okay.
And I had to go back and add a little bit to it before it was published. And what I discovered was that a lot of people won't really feel comfortable helping someone or asking for help. Patty, when was the last time you really felt excited about waking up in the morning and saying, I can't wait to ask somebody to help me?
Yeah.
A lot of us, including me,
Right.
we like to help others, but
Right.
we're not very good at taking responsibility for even knowing what we need, admitting that we need help, asking soon enough, and not waiting until we're desperate, and asking the right
mad or
people,
angry.
or
Right.
giving them the chance to decline. So I learned that we needed not only how to be better helpers and first responders at a time where a lot of things were going wrong, we needed to learn more how to take responsibility for asking for what we wanted.
Right.
And so that's why I wrote the book.
Now, 9/11 also had a major impact. I mean, you wrote the book before, but I'm sure 9/11 had a major impact on how we converse
Yes,
with
it
each
did.
other. Tell me about that.
Well, if you think about it, sooner or later, a lot of us saw on television that there were police officers and there were firemen and there were people in offices who were sharing their feelings. It was an appropriate time for people to show their emotions, whether that was tears or a hug, and we saw this in the workplace among colleagues who normally wouldn't. They'd have boundaries. We saw this with strangers helping strangers. You had permission. In fact, it was expected. Look out for the other person. 9/11 made grief and loss and helping and needing help without being helpless very public.
Right.
And
right.
I think we have seen millions of people step up in the midst of disaster in ways that they didn't even know they could.
That's very true. That happened here in Houston with Ike. Neighbors started talking to neighbors. People were helping each other like never before. It was just it transformed people. And I think 9/11 did have something to do with the way we started reacting and helping each other.
And we weren't so
talking
afraid.
to each
Maybe
other.
we might get it wrong, but we can show the best of our intentions.
Right, right. Now, you told me that the reason why you wrote Healing Conversations before 9/11 was, in fact, that you had a friend who had a miscarriage.
Well, a couple of things had happened. My mother died, and a lot of people that I would have thought could have been helpful, like really close friends or family members, some of the things that they said or tried to do weren't very helpful at all. In fact, they were painful, which caught me off guard. Strangers were often more helpful than family and friends, and I got curious and I thought, what was up with that? but I wasn't going to write a book about it. I said somebody needs to write a book about it. And then my boss was diagnosed with cancer, and when he died, some people were really puzzled why 15 years after working for him I was devastated. They also didn't seem to know how to comfort me. And a friend of mine, my best friend at work, was told she should not try to get pregnant. She was pregnant twice and almost died of ectopic pregnancies. And I didn't know what to say to her. In my mind, the judge was saying, what are you, nuts?
Right. They told you not to do it. Why are you doing it?
And you're my friend, and
right.
I don't want to lose you. So
right.
my fear and my judgment would not have been very helpful.
Right.
So I paused, and I asked a friend of mine, whose wife I didn't know very well, Marshall, would it be okay if I talked to your wife about what to say to someone who had a miscarriage? Because she had had a miscarriage. Right. I don't know what to say to my friend. I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. He said, actually, I think it would be very healing for my wife. So the long story is in the book, but it does tell you that I wrote this because I realized there are times when it's not okay not to know what to say or do, but you can have the courage to ask someone else, could you help me be a better helper?
Exactly.
Is it okay for you to guide me? And if you want to learn what to say or do, it's in the book.
Right, yeah. Okay, let's talk about some of the difficult, the hardest conversations we have to have throughout life. And one of them is the long goodbye. I'm assuming a lot of people think of this, they think of Alzheimer's, let's say.
They
the
do.
long goodbye.
In fact, there is a story in the book about Alzheimer's, and one of my close friends said to me, Nance, sometimes all I need is somebody who won't judge me. I need to be able to not make you feel better about how my mother is doing, because in Alzheimer's, people don't really get better. They're not going to recover. He says, I need to be able to say to somebody how angry I am, how sad I am, how much I hate going to visit her, without being judged as being a bad son.
Without being feeling guilty.
So also be aware that when someone has lovingly or become exhausted by being a caregiver for someone who, they're not dying, but they're going through a difficult time.
Kind of gone.
They were injured in an accident. They've come back from the war. Their life has changed. We have a lot of people taking care of people for a long period of time. Caregivers need a break. They need somebody to take care of them.
Right. Absolutely.
We often don't realize that. We'll say, how's your mom?
Right.
No, need to say, let me take care of you for a change.
Right, right.
Oh, really? Right. Sure.
Very good point. After the divorce, this is a very common, unfortunately it's too common.
It is.
I mean, in our lifetime we'll always meet somebody who's getting divorced who we know.
We will. So this is very tricky. And I've been through it myself, and everyone they go through it in a different way. So the first thing is, don't assume that if you've been through it,
that it's the same.
That it's the same. Second, don't assume that they're not going to get back together. Third, remember that they may be the parent of the person's children. They're never not going to be that parent. Fourth, remember that they may heal over time, and however their breakup is, you want to be a space for them to have some potential of a relationship, even if there has been some very difficult time. So also, you may have been friends with both people.
Exactly.
You may think it's a tragedy, or you may think that they never should have gotten together. You need to get in touch with your own feelings. Maybe talk to somebody else about them before you try to be there for your friend.
Okay. The other one, unfortunately, is the pink slip. What happens after you lose a job?
Well, particularly in these days, no matter what our age or what our function, most of us are going to go through the end of a job. We may be fired, we may be made redundant, we may be told we're being laid off, or that they're getting rid of our job. Or if it doesn't happen to us, it's going to happen to someone we know.
Right, sure.
Sometimes we're afraid to talk about it because it could happen to us. Sometimes it has, and we're embarrassed to share our experiences. Or sometimes we know that you weren't happy in that job, and now we're hoping you're going to find a new one.
Right, right.
Be careful about offering your shoulds.
Right.
Be careful not to should on people, or to run to say, oh, let me look at your resume. They may need more time to be glad they're not going back, be sad or scared, and you need to take your time in being with someone who has lost a job, or if you've lost it, you may need to know how to let somebody know what you need, and right now, it may not be looking for a new one.
That might not be the right time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Another one, of course, this is probably the most difficult, is when a child dies.
Yes. I had not gone through that, but I knew I needed to write about it. And so a close friend of mine enabled me to talk to her mother, who had lost her youngest child. And what I learned is that a parent may often feel that no matter how illogical it sounds, it's their fault. That they should have, I'm the parent, I'm the father, I'm the mother, this should not have happened. Do not try to talk them out of how they feel. You need to keep them company for a while in how they feel. There's a lot more to it that I won't go into, but it is worth, if you're trying to be with someone who has lost a child, do some reading, learn a little bit about the stages of grief, and never assume that it's okay to cheer them up, but also give them an opportunity to remember the memories of their child and let their child live again. And don't be afraid to ask them, do you want to talk to me about some of the thoughts that you're having?
Right.
And it goes on for the rest of their lives.
Exactly, the grief. Mm-hmm. Disease. Let's talk about when you get diagnosed and it's a terminal disease, or let's say, for example, if cancer comes back.
Mm-hmm. Well, both of us have dealt with vestiges of cancer in our lives, and what happens is that a lot of times if you want to help someone who has a difficult diagnosis, MS, ALS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, first you have to deal with your own sense of loss. Don't cover it up, and don't try to be tough, and don't not show your feelings. Don't make it be all about your feelings. When someone is diagnosed with cancer and the cancer has come back, you need to pause to not turn it into, oh my God, or we can kick this. You do not know how the person
one extreme or the other
is feeling.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who says, I'm a survivor, and I have a friend who says, don't use that word with me. I have had to learn, make no assumptions. So if someone is telling you the cancer is back, or there's no more treatment, and I need you to be okay with that, they really do need you to support them in being okay with that. And if you're not, you need to go find some support elsewhere. But you learn, we all need to take responsibility for growing up.
Now, there are some things, though, that we should know not to ever say. For example, I remember when I was a reporter, and they would say, Patty, don't ever ask them how they feel. And I said, of course, you can't ask somebody who just lost a child in a fire, how do you feel? And you see that all the time. Share with us what are some of the things we should never say in any situation.
Well, since most of us aren't reporters, I'm going to stress for other people. I want your listeners and your viewers to think for a moment the last time you had a difficult situation and the first person said, well, how are you feeling? And then the second person, how are you feeling? And the third person, how are you feeling? Or the first time they see you, the first thing they ask is, how are you feeling? It all becomes about, you become your disease, you become your diagnosis, you become being divorced, you become being jobless. So what I say to people is, they know that you care, so it's better to pause for a moment and say, so maybe you want to ask about the children, or you want to ask about their day, or if they're dealing with medication, you can ask about a smaller slice of what might be going on for them. Or you might say, I'm not sure what you want to talk about. We used to talk about sports. Do you want to take it? I mean, you can have a sense of humor if it's appropriate.
Right.
And let them guide you.
Right. And the power of pause, you do share also some ideas on how to have better conversations.
Well, often, particularly in this high-speed world, where a lot of us have experience and we've gone through things, we think we know what you should do, so we should on people. I encourage you, don't should on others.
What are the three most important things that we should take from healing conversations, do you think?
Well, the first one is there's power in a pause. There's no weakness in a pause. So pausing allows you to bring the best of who you are to any situation, whether you need the help or you're offering it. The second really is to listen from your heart and your head. And this totem, this bear that I'm wearing, has a heart line through it, because the Native Americans knew you couldn't just be all heart and you couldn't just be all head. So listen with this ear, and if you put the ears together, it's a heart.
It's a heart.
And if you can listen with an open mind and an open heart, you will have more to give.
That's beautiful.
And the third thing is give and let give. Give to others, but also
let them give back to you.
People give back to you.
How do you know you're living smart?
You know you're living smart when you are able to get curious, not furious. When you are able to be willing to be awkward in the presence of difficulties and stick your neck out a little bit and let people be comforted by living inside their shell. And when you are willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't judge people from how they look. Turtles are slow when you see them on land.
They're persistent, though.
They're also fast underwater. So don't judge a book by a cover. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Get curious, not furious. And stick your neck out and be vulnerable so that other people can also be vulnerable with you.
Nance Guilmartin, thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
I feel healed already.
All right.
And to learn more about healing conversations, go to our website. There you'll find a complete resource list. You can also email us or call us with your comments at 713-743-8513. And that's our show for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to live smart. I'm Patricia Gras. Have a great week.
For a transcript of this program, send $6.95 to the address on your screen. Please include the name of the guest.